So, okay. So we're here because we want to protect ourselves and each other in this very strange time. Sky and I have been doing so much research, I mean, for a long time, but on this in particular as well. And what we're finding is a lot of the information we had already really seems to apply well to this situation. So this is our webinar series, Cultivating Wisdom in a Time of Panic. And this is the first one. We're going to play the topics by ear a little. We know what the next one's going to be. I'll tell you later. But we want to just continue providing the support until this thing chills out. So today's topic is building your immunity and soothing your nervous system. So I think a lot of us have heard that stress impacts our immune system, but I hope today you'll walk away with an even deeper understanding of how that is and why that is. And it's absolutely unrealistic to expect ourselves not to be stressed out right now. It's just impossible. So there's something we call shooting all over yourself when you just think I shouldn't feel this and I should feel this and I should be this way and I shouldn't be this way. And that's just shooting all over yourself. So we want to be really compassionate with how we're feeling and what's coming up for us and allow it and embrace it and love it and just see what we can do to soothe it. So we're not trying to shame it or, push it away. It's a natural evolutionary instinct to protect ourselves. And so it's okay that it's happening, but there are some really cool tools we can do to take stress off the body in different areas of our lives. So that said, I like to start all my presentations with some kind of meditation. And so if you're new to meditation, you can join in. If you're not comfortable with it, you can sit, you can close your eyes, you can pray, you can doodle, you can do whatever you want and whatever's comfortable for you or, whatever you're most interested in doing. So for everyone who wants to participate, we're just gonna sit up tall so you can breathe and feel supported by your spine. And the point of meditation is to go somatic, to feel, hold on, people are waiting. Oh, there's Harit. Okay. So we're going to, the point of this meditation, you can look at it spiritually, but you can also look at it as something to soothe your nervous system and shift your brain state, which is good for your immunity. Okay, so we're all gonna just sit up tall and close our eyes. And the first thing I'm gonna invite everyone to do is notice how much momentum you feel inside of yourself. Like you may be feeling totally relaxed right now. You may be feeling some agitation, stress, like you're spinning out a little bit. So you can be anywhere on the spectrum. So we're gonna just notice how you're feeling. Notice how much momentum may be happening in you with thoughts or sensations. And we're just gonna take a moment to feel those thoughts and sensations. We're not gonna push them away or try to change them. So just taking long, slow, deep breaths and start to get curious about the sensations in your body. Kind of like if you were listening to music or looking at art, just being curious about all the different parts of it. And we don't have to identify it or analyze it or name it, just feel. And then see if you can breathe through your nose. Just as much as you can. Slow inhale through the nose. Filling all the way up with breath. See how much air you can get in. Whatever your body can do is fine. And slowly releasing through the nose. And maybe play with making your exhales a little longer than your inhales. That lets your brain know you're safe. Kind of like a sigh. So we'll inhale through the nose. And exhale through the nose. Let that exhale be really slow. And if you're moving at a different rate than me, it's totally fine. We all have different breath capacity. So all we're doing right now is breathing and feeling. Our bodies need to be heard. Our emotions need to be felt. The messages from our inner wisdom. Focusing on your breath and sensations. If your mind wanders, it's totally fine. You're not supposed to stop thinking, you're just refocusing to how you feel and your breath. Now we're going to add one more little trick. If it's okay for you, you can try it. If it is a little hard for you, depending on your lung capacity, you can just skip it and keep breathing the way you were. So now we're going to play with when you inhale, see if you can just hold your breath for a couple of seconds and just hold your breath until it just gets a little edgy, a little uncomfortable, and then you'll just slowly exhale. So we'll all inhale through your nose, fill up as much as you can and retain the breath. And then whenever it feels a little edgy, like you don't want to hold your breath anymore, you can slowly exhale through your nose. When you get to the bottom of the exhale and no more breath can go out, you're going to pause until it feels edgy. And then you're going to inhale again. And I'm going to give you 1 minute to practice that on your own because we all have different lung capacities. So just play with inhaling, filling all the way up, pause, retain, exhale, empty all the way out, pause, and then inhale again. So just do that for 1 minute. And then we can just open our eyes. Yeah, the faces look really cute. I hope everyone's entered so I can go into full screen. Cool. Alrighty. Okay, so the way I'm going to set this up is I'm going to present some information, just kind of give an overview, and then when I'm done with what I have to say, then I'm going to just open it up for a little Q&A. So I'm going to invite you to ask questions that are kind of more broad appeal that could help a lot of people. If there's something that involves having to convey a lot of backstory or a complex medical situation, then I'm going to give you another option at the end of the webinar. This guy, make sure I tell them. But when we open it up for Q&A, I'll explain that better. But for now, if everyone could just have your mics off so that we don't have background disruption, and then there'll be a time when we can call on different people who have questions. And Sky, I'm going to invite you to keep the gallery view. So if someone raises their hand, and maybe keep it on the chat, like if someone has something they need to share in the chat, just let me know if it's important. So if it can't wait till the Q&A, raise your hand, try to get Sky's attention, chat, whatever, and then otherwise we'll save it for later. If you have questions as I'm presenting, you might want to write them down. So you might want to take notes or have a way to write questions so you don't forget them for when it's time to ask questions. Okay, and I'm going to take a minute because I can't see the gallery view right this second, so I want to see everybody. I know we have a lot of cameras off, which is fine. That's Jessica's mom, Heidi. There's Jessica and Crystal. Oh, Crystal, I wanted, oh, Harishan. Oh, I love seeing all these people. And Tara. Sorry, I'm just picking out on friend faces right now. I see that Joe's there. And a few people I haven't met before, but I look forward to getting to know you. Okay, I'm back to speaker view. Okay, all right. So, let's see. Okay, so this is going to be a weekly series, so know that whatever we don't answer today, we can answer in future weeks. I do want to let you know that the next topic is going to be on supplements, herbs, and foods. I'm going to say a few things about those things today, but getting down to the nitty-gritty of those topics, we're going to save for next week. I'm really excited to share today's topic. The immune system and the nervous system are completely interrelated. And I want to help you understand how your immune system works and give you, first I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of some broader concepts, and then we're going to understand how your immune system works because I'm going to give you instructions on how to damage your immune system. So we'll run through what it would take to really screw yourself up. And then we'll run through some scenarios on how to boost your immune system and build your immune system and just kind of see what that looks like. Our intention is never ever to create pressure or shame or judgment around the daily choices we're making. Just to be transparent, when this first all started happening and I was very confused, I didn't feel like eating. So I did two things. I went to Whole Foods and I bought like probably a month's worth of food thinking it was 2 weeks worth of food. The second thing I did was have no appetite and actually not eat any of that food. So like, and then I just kind of was eating a bunch of like organic crackers and chips and stuff and not cooking very much. And so, and then I wasn't sleeping very well and I wasn't meditating very much. And I was, so like, you know, like it's been a little bit of a process to get my footing under me again and feel grounded again and get back in my self-care routine again. So we all are human. None of us is supposed to be perfect. And we're just going to do the best we can to take care of ourselves and each other through this and hopefully our whole lives, because we always need self-care. Okay, so some of this stuff a lot of you already know, but it's good to have reminders. Sky and I know a lot of stuff, but we sometimes don't practice what we know and we like to be reminded. Sky is one of my best friends and health coaches and supports when I need it. We support each other. And you guys have all supported me through so much. So, so one of the first things we need to understand is that when we get into a stress state, we have evolved. So Sky and I look at a lot of what we teach from a position of evolutionary biology in terms of like how we fit in with nature. And so nature is very complex and we have something called co-evolutionary relationships, meaning we evolved on this whole planet and this whole universe and these complex relationships that are chemical, energetic, biological. And when we don't live in alignment with respecting those relationships, then we create disease, right? We create disease. So we're gonna look at that, look at everything through that lens. So one of the things nature did to try to help us is as we evolved, when we get stressed out, our primal brain still thinks when we're stressed out that we're being, you know, I think a lot of us know this, that we think we're being attacked by a predator, maybe we're in a time of famine, we're being attacked. So what the body does when it thinks we're under attack, when we're not safe, is it pulls resources from our digestion, it slows our digestion. The adrenals shoot off like stress hormones and so that tanks our libido and ability to build muscle. It just kind of decreases it because our adrenals make stress hormones and precursors to testosterone. So it kind of shuts down our libido, our digestion, and actually the part of our immune system that's killing bacteria, viruses, parasites, basically infections. Because if you're about to get attacked or beaten up or whatever, like it's not a really high priority to kill infectious diseases, right? So, but the body does trigger an insulin response, and it does trigger an inflammatory response, because if we get hurt, we need to repair tissue damage, right? So that's why when we get stressed out, we get more aches in our muscles and joints. So when we are in a time of stress, the fact that our insulin spikes, what that does in our daily lives is it actually makes us, we don't just want to have insulin in the blood without it being able to meet with glucose, because insulin is a hormone that tells us there's sugar in the blood, we need to get it out, and it manages fat storage. It's a fat storage hormone. So when we get stressed out and our insulin spikes, we're basically going to crave a bunch of sugars and carbohydrates. If you're severely stressed, you could just lose your appetite. So there's a tendency for weight gain or weight loss, depending on you, your personality, and your unique biology. We're all bio-individual, meaning we all need different balances of nutrients. We need some different things. Our body handles things in a variety of ways that keeps us evolutionarily diverse. So it's just important to know. Another thing that happens as part of that pulling resources away from fighting off infection is that there's something called secretory IgA, or SecA is what some people call it, and there's also immunoglobulin G. So immunoglobulin A, immunoglobulin G, and they're in our mucous membranes. They're in our sinus passages, and when we're stressed out, cortisol triggers downregulation of those chemicals. So then those IgA, IgG, they actually kill viruses, including, there's a lot of research on influenza and other strains of coronavirus. So coronavirus has been around forever. And so what we're dealing with now, COVID-19, is a novel strain that's actually mutated now. So now there are 2 strains of it, at least, that are known, last I heard. So, but your body has some general ability, some general immunity that can apply across many different viruses. Viruses are DNA, RNA, and they're enveloped in a protein and sometimes like a lipid layer. That's why the lipid layer is why washing using soap will actually kill them. And so what we want to do is try to do everything we can to keep the castle walls of our sinuses strong. And so managing stress is one of the first things we need to do, like how we handle our stress and our emotions. Because also when we're in a fight or flight state, we're operating from the lower brain, which is the survival brain. And so we don't make very good decisions, basically. So when we're stressed out, we tend to not think about the long-term implications of our behavior. We just kind of do what feels good right now to comfort ourselves. And so the more we can soothe our nervous systems and process our emotions in a healthy way, and the less we can add additional burdens on our bodies through like diet, lifestyle, that kind of thing, then the stronger our immune system is going to be. So there's a lot of research on virology, the study of viruses, and epidemiology that looks at comorbidity, meaning the correlation between a disease and other factors in a person's life. And what we're seeing is that people who have diabetes or just blood sugar issues at all, who have hypertension, there's a number of other factors, but basically lifestyle modulated factors are actually at higher risk, and it's not just age. So for example, someone who has a really healthy lifestyle that's over 70 might be less susceptible to a really nasty bout or even life-threatening bout of coronavirus than someone who's actually younger, but takes terrible care of themselves. So yes, we need to be aware that the older you are, the more susceptible you are. But if you've been through chemo, if you've had a lot of antibiotics, if you've been through a lot of stress, which we all, life happens, right? So that makes us more susceptible. So I'm not trying to scare you. Most people who get this virus recover from it. And some people barely even, it's just not even that big of a deal. Other people, they're really sick, and other people, they die. So, and I think we're all clear now about the point of social distancing to slow the spread so we can, not overload the hospital system. And I don't think anyone really wants this, but I want to make sure we can support each other, that we want to slow the spread, so we want to prevent getting it. But also, if you do end up with it, we want to support you doing the best you can to not have a lighter case of it and have it resolved quicker, to reduce duration and severity. So I'm going to talk about how to screw up your immune system. So one of the best ways to screw up your immune system, besides being really stressed out and rehearsing like really what if thoughts in your life, like rehearsing worst case scenarios, one of the other best ways is to not get enough sleep. So one of the things we want to look out for, that now that we're some of you are in families and have people in your household, so you're being able to interact with people. Other people might be living alone and not having as much human interaction. So then it's like really tempting to be on the internet and, you know, on our electronics up really late at night. And I've had to really work on that. So one thing we want to talk about is sleep hygiene, which is making sure that you go to bed a little earlier than you think. You start getting ready for bed earlier than you think, and that we try to maybe find ways to occupy time, maybe listening to music, meditating, playing with a puzzle, like writing in a journal, reading a book, or, you know, something like that to before we go to bed. So we want to make sure we get enough sleep and quality sleep. Also, the food we're eating, we know that's really important. So one of the most, like I said, when we're stressed out, there's a tendency to crave more sugars and refined carbohydrates. There's a tendency to want to self-soothe and self-medicate and numb out with food. There's nothing, like, it's not wrong that that's a natural instinct we have. We just need to be more aware of that tendency. One of the things that's really important for modulating the immune system are amino acids. So those are proteins. So whether you eat plant proteins or animal proteins, make sure they're very high quality proteins. You need amino acids. The best way to get them is through food. There are a lot of supplements out there trying to sell you all these different amino acids. Eat food. If you are vegan or vegetarian, if people have told you protein's not really that important, you cannot make cells without protein, you cannot repair cells without protein, your immune system can't work without protein, you cannot detoxify without protein, so make sure you get enough protein. So that's something I want to make sure everyone is very clear on. This is very important. Another thing, to protect cell membranes, for the immunity of our whole body, we need our cells to be strong. They need to have strong immunity. Our cell membranes are made up of lipids and fats, and we need to eat really high quality fatty acids. So refined vegetable oils are very inflammatory to our body. So things like canola oil, grapeseed oil, cottonseed oil, soybean oil, corn oil, all those oils, those vegetable oils, they actually cause inflammation and damage to our arterial lining, but they also damage our immune systems. So you want to make sure you're eating extra virgin and unrefined oils. If you're eating out, you're probably eating processed oils, unless you're eating from a restaurant that specifically advertises that they use healthy fats. So maybe it's some kind of paleo restaurant or something like that. But I just wanted to takeaway point is your fats matter. You need to eat, different people need different amounts of fat. Different people's gallbladders work better than others. So fats and oils make you kind of queasy. That could just be that you're stressed out and nervous, but it could also be your gallbladder struggling a little bit. So just eat as much good fats, as many good fats as your body intuitively feels is good for you. But this is not the time to be on a low-fat diet. There's actually never a time to be on a low-fat diet unless your gallbladder is severely diseased, or there's some extenuating circumstances. But so these fats are going to be, you know, extra virgin coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, grass-fed ghee or butter, you know, things like that. Also just foods that naturally contain fats. So avocados, nuts and seeds, if your digestion handles them well, some people's don't. And then if you're eating animal products, try to get pastured or at least organic animal products like eggs and chicken, beef, whatever you eat. Also wild fish has high in a lot of omega-3s. So this may be something you already know, but the question now is, are we practicing this? Like, is this what we're really doing? Also, Sky and I have been talking a lot about, there's a lot of conflict over carbohydrates, over like protein meats, and over vegetables basically. And so in general, Sky and I, hold on, 2 more people in the waiting room. So Sky and I are, okay. So one of the things we teach people is we're kind of teach the anti-diet. We're not about putting people on diets. We're about finding a way that lives in alignment with our evolutionary biology and works with your unique individual biology. And so some people do well eating quite a bit of carbohydrates and other people don't. A lot of that is determined by your microbiome, by your nervous system, by whether you have infections or don't have infections. So there are a lot of factors that affect that. But just if you eat so many carbohydrates that you're sleepy or tired or brain foggy, then that means you ate too many. And make sure they're high quality. So now's the time, like if you're craving sweets or carbohydrates, you could eat a bunch of empty calories, but you could also eat sweet potatoes or fruit or, you know, carbohydrates that have nutritional value. And then with the proteins, some people really need a lot more protein than others. So notice if you're hungry, fats and protein make you feel full. If you're hungry between meals, you may not be getting enough fat and proteins. Carbohydrates don't make you feel full, and they can make you actually feel more tired or inflamed, but they're not bad. So this whole carbohydrates are good or carbohydrates are bad, they're just, we need them, but just try to eat an amount that and quality that feels good, makes you feel good. If you eat a meal and you feel uplifted and energized, you know you did something right. That's your body giving you feedback saying, hey, good job, that was awesome. And if you eat things that make you feel like really sleepy and tired and yucky, then that's your body just saying, hey, that didn't really work for me. And so one thing Sky has been discovering lately is he's been experimenting with eating actually fewer vegetables and more animal protein to help his gut. He's been doing a lot of research on that. And there are actually people who go on these carnivore diets and they resolve a lot of GI issues eating a lot of animal products that, you know, you would think that would be counterintuitive. So we do encourage that people eat vegetables if your gut tolerates them. And some people have trouble. Conversely, a lot of clients have told us when they eat meat, they have trouble digesting it. So we want you to learn to take this time to listen to your body and step outside of food fads and, you know, making, you know, like the way you eat your identity, but to instead listen to your body. There's never been a better time to sit with how you feel and notice how you feel and take care of yourself. And also in slowing the spread of, I'm not saying no one can ever eat out, but you know, like if you cook your own food and it's homemade, and you can even spray your food with hydrogen peroxide, like your produce. If you clean your food and you cook at home, you're a lot less susceptible to contagion and to spreading this virus than someone who's eating restaurant prepared food that has had all these hands in it. And some restaurants are really doing a good job of incentivizing employees to take time off if they're sick. Others are not. So some employees will kind of don't want to admit they have the virus. They don't want to lose the income. So they'll just try to cover up being sick for a while before they take off. So you just want to be aware of, you know, where your food has been and have more control over your diet than you might normally have. And let's see. So a great way to destroy your immune system is to eat a lot of sugar, because sugar actually depresses your immune system. There's a lot of information on this. When people first started saying that, it was kind of seen as some hippy dippy weirdo thing to say, but there's actually a lot of research on it now, and it's even on like just mainstream medical websites. It's used in science to suppress immune system in lab animals, and then also glucose is used to light up cancer cells. So sugar is something that's hard on the immune system, which is different. Like an extracted sugar is different from sugar like in a mango or something like that. So I'm not talking about fruit sugar that's in a matrix of fiber. I'm talking about sugar that's extracted and isolated. Now, when you do have a sweet tooth, if you do want to bake while you're at home, then try to use just really high quality ingredients, and consider baking with at least coconut sugar because it has more minerals, and minerals are more supportive of the immune system. It's lower glycemic. We like to use like raw local honey. So those are a little bit gentler, kind of the paleo sweeteners are easier. And I always hesitate to bring up this topic because I don't want you throwing virtual tomatoes at me, but gluten does have an effect on, like zonulin is a chemical that controls the integrity of the tight junctions between the cells of your intestinal lining. So it's like your castle wall. So from mouth to anus, the lining is your castle wall. It's very thin and easily damaged. So when we eat inflammatory foods, it causes inflammation. And when you have inflammation, then the bacteria that has evolved to compost dead things back to soil or to break down damaged tissue is like, oh God, this is a great place to live. Come on, guys, let's replicate. And they take over those tissues. Whereas what we call good microbes, they're the ones that are specialized to keeping healthy tissue alive. So we want to have microbial diversity of the microbes that keep our tissue healthy. So if we have had a lot of antibiotics, like I grew up, my dad was a doctor, we didn't know any better. I've had so many antibiotics, it's ridiculous. I think a lot of us have. So, you know, that can do some damage. So a lot of people out there are saying, go take a bunch of probiotics. And if you find a probiotic that really feels good and you notice makes a difference, I'm not going to say don't take it. But the more we learn about microbiome medicine, which is the study of all the microbes that make up our body, we have as many microbial cells as human cells. We get as much DNA from them as we get from our human cells. So it's considered a functional organ. we can't live without it. And one of the most important parts of our immune system is our microbiome. And so we each have a completely different microbiome. It's just hard to know if you go take a probiotic, if it's really gonna like bring you into balance or out of balance. So you can trial and error and see. But what Sky and I really recommend is coming into contact with probiotics in a way that's more coevolutionary, a little more natural, which would be, we call it having a probiotic lifestyle. So that would be, eating clean foods, because inflammatory foods make it hard for the beneficial microbes to proliferate, because if you have inflamed tissue, the not so nice ones are going to proliferate. So if you want to, sorry, that's what I was going to say. So you can eat fermented foods, things like sauerkraut. If you tolerate dairy, it's usually easier to tolerate goat dairy and sheep dairy. Cow dairy can be very inflammatory in a lot of people. So if you really want to boost your immune system, you might either cut back on dairy and maybe switch over to goat and sheep dairy. But so you can have kefirs and yogurt. Try not to have a bunch of sugar in it. You can always use some honey to sweeten it. So having probiotic foods is something that most people's body do well with. Now, some people do have something called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, or other kinds of imbalances where you don't really do well on probiotic foods or supplements. You'll notice if when you take them, you get bloated, or you feel pressure in your abdomen, or maybe you have diarrhea or constipation all of a sudden that you weren't having before. So just if you look out for that, you might want to back up on the probiotic foods. Another way to have like a probiotic lifestyle is to go outside, which is a good way to not go stir crazy and totally stressed out too. So if you can get outside and breathe air, there are a lot of studies like out of Japan on what's called forest bathing, which is basically when you walk in an intact ecosystem, like a forest, you breathe in microbes that actually inoculate your immune system for weeks to come. So every time you're outside around trees, that can help inoculate your immune system. If you're able-bodied enough to go on a hike or, on a trail where you can be like in something that's more like a forest or kind of more like a jungle here in Hawaii, then that's actually really good for your immune system. Also, just earthing. I think a lot of us have heard there's like when the people first started talking about earthing, people thought they were quacks, but there's a lot of research on the electron transfer between our bodies, including the soles of our feet and the cells of our bodies. So it's really important, and it actually reduces inflammation, soothes the nervous system, and boosts immunity to literally just walk barefoot on the earth, assuming it hasn't been sprayed with Roundup or a bunch of pesticides. So as long as the soil is clean, walking outside barefoot I can't emphasize how beneficial it is, how much more beneficial it is than you might imagine. So to review, go outside, breathe air, touch the earth. And that's not like just a hippie thing. That's like how our biology works. We need enough sleep. I already said that. One thing I want to mention is that so we've been hearing more and more probably about mitochondria. And these are like, the energy centers of your cells. As we age, we have fewer of them, and they become weaker. And so the things that damage our mitochondria are the exact same things that damage our immune system, which is toxins, pathogens like infections, and trauma or stress. Okay, so those are the three things that damage the immune system. They're also the same things that cause all kinds of chronic disease. Like every chronic disease you can imagine is caused by immune dysregulation or a damaged immune system. So it's really important to care for our mitochondria. So there are things we can do to boost our mitochondria, which actually slows aging and disease and builds our immunity. And so one of those things is sleep. And melatonin actually helps boost mitochondria, and melatonin is an important part of the immune system. So up until a few years ago, I thought melatonin was just how we went to sleep. Like it just made us sleep. But I thought it was a sleep hormone. But it actually kills cancer cells. It's crucial for our immune system, and it is really important for keeping our mitochondria numerous and healthy as we age. And that kind of governs our lifespan, but it also governs our health span, so how long we feel healthy. And so what we want to do is expand our disability-free lifespan, not just live a long time, but have as good of a quality of life as we can. So I just get some sleep. If you need help with sleep, Sky and I have a lot of tips and resources for helping people with sleep. I know my mom, she recently just had heart valve surgery. Yay, Mom. Yay. And she can breathe better Mom, can you turn on your mic and share a little bit about how your breathing and sleep have changed since your heart valve surgery, just really briefly? Is she there? Oh, there she is.
I think. Is my mic on now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I can actually breathe down to the bottom of my lungs for the first time in years. I didn't know I wasn't breathing that well, but I still have some lung issues, but it's so much better. And I really enjoy breathing. It's really something special. But I'm feeling a lot better. I've had some setbacks, and now I'm climbing back out of the hole again. But I'm being especially careful not to get the virus because I don't want to have to share a breathing machine at the hospital with somebody. So I'm doing very well.
Yeah. You said you're sleeping a little better, quality sleep. I know you have to get up to go to the bathroom sometimes, but like as far as the depth of sleep, it's changed, right?
It's gotten a little bit better, but it's got a long way to go. I try to, relax and sleep, and I have a Fitbit that's telling me I don't have any deep sleep. But I feel like I'm sleeping, but it says I'm not. But anyway,
Okay.
I'm feeling more rested, but then I get sleepy again. So I'm trying to just go with what my body feels
Yeah.
and
I
do my exercises.
Yeah. That's one of the best things we can do is go with how our body feels, right? Because our body's always talking to us. So um, nature has a feedback mechanism, which is pain and pleasure. So when we feel good, that's our cells going, yay, good job. When we feel bad, that's our cells being like, could we have a little more love and nurture, please? Thank you. And so, but sometimes it's frustrating because we're having to guess like the language of the body. Like, what is it trying to tell us? Why are we hurting? So it's tempting to just turn off the pain signals, to numb out. Thank you, Rachel. So, sorry, I got distracted. So sometimes it's tempting when we don't really know why we're hurting or uncomfortable to just go for the quickest thing that feels good. It can feel like a little more work to sit and listen to our body and figure out what's wrong. I feel a little sad that it took us so long to figure out she had this heart valve problem because that was stopping so many things from working in her body. Like these things that would work with all our clients, like a charm, weren't working with her, but it's because a valve in her heart was not working. And so there are structural reasons sometimes why people cannot sleep. And sometimes people need to dig deeper medically to figure out why they're having trouble sleeping. But for most people, if you're having trouble with sleep, there are ways to troubleshoot it that are highly effective and tend to work for most people.
Can I say something? Part of my sleep problem, I feel like, is the AFib that I still have. They told me going into the valve surgery, it would not correct the AFib. Yeah. So I think my heart rate is so weird that I think that keeps me awake at night, but that can be fixed too at a later time.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say. Okay.
Thanks, Mom. Let me see. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, so sleep's super important. And then, see, these are all these things we hear: diet and exercise, sleep, blah, 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 stress. But these are things we need to get very specific about. So in a minute, I'm going to open up just some questions that if you're having trouble with any of these things, that you can ask specific questions. But we do also need to move our bodies. So lymph is an important part of our immune system. It carries a lot of immune cells. It takes the garbage out of our bodies. So when we we all have some level of toxic exposure just from being in a body on a planet, but then sometimes we can do things that add to it. So if we're not moving, we're actually going to have higher levels of inflammation. We've actually evolved that if we just sit for hours and hours and hours, our body literally creates pain to get us to move because it's not evolutionarily advantageous to sit around and not move. So not only does being sedentary cause body pain, but it also is bad for your immune system. So make sure you move. So if you have some kind of physical disability, you don't have a lot of strength, do what you can, walk around. I have a client in a wheelchair that we sometimes turn on music, like she'll play like a disco song and she'll like dance in her wheelchair. If you can walk, walk. If you can run, run. If you can do yoga, tai chi, it doesn't matter. What we do think matters, Sky and I really agree on this. You have to find ways to move that feel as good to you as possible. If you're able-bodied, that opens up some more possibilities. Like I think dance is amazing. Dance actually opens up parts of the brain that other movements don't. The more we move in creative ways that aren't just sitting, standing, and lying down, the more we light up our brain. So it's just important to see if you can find ways of moving that feel good. Even if you're exercising, like say doing squats or something like that, see if you can find something that feels good about engaging your glute muscles, like feeling powerful, or something that strengthens your back muscles, something that takes pressure off your back. So see when you move, if you can find pleasure in it, because pleasure is boosting of the immune system and it's feedback that we're doing something right. So also, I want to give you a metaphor before we go to questions of how to look at the immune system. So one of the metaphors I really like is think of it as a bucket. And so different things we do or don't do are either going to fill the bucket or empty the bucket. And what we want is to be able to build ourselves up faster than we're tearing ourselves down. If we're trying to create super immunity, bolster immunity, then we have to super build ourselves up and really cut back on the tearing ourselves down. And what we're having to also deal with at the same time is the natural tendency that when we're stressed out to not make as good of decisions because we're just trying to numb the pain and avoid the pain and feel good faster because we're in distress, which is why I think meditation and breathing exercises are, which we're going to close with another one that really helps just kind of wipe your brain from stress mode. So things that can fill up the bucket besides diet and lifestyle things are infections. So there can be things like if you have mold in your house, it's going to weaken your immunity. So it's something you want to keep an eye out for. It's something Sky and I can help you with if you need help. But mold in your house, if you have any kind of like Lyme, Epstein-Barr, parasites, any kind of infections on board already, that's going to cause problems. It's going to make it harder. If you have any structural issues like heart valve issues, that can be a problem. If you have low stomach acid and you're not absorbing nutrients very well, that can be an issue. Some people just drink some apple cider vinegar and water and that can help with stomach acid. Other people take HCl. There are a lot of options for that. But if you, but then there are things like toxic exposure. So products we're using that have chemicals, processed foods. So if you want to destroy your immune system, don't sleep, don't exercise, worry a lot, don't take care of infections. And what else could we do, Skya, to destroy our immune systems? Oh, we could mouth breathe a lot because the breathing through our nose is actually part of our immune system's way of filtering air. So when we're in fight or flight, we tend to mouth breathe more, or if you sleep, you have sleep apnea, or you breathe through your mouth, that actually increases your susceptibility to airborne pathogens. And it's also hard on your heart. So really just something as simple as nose breathing can make a big difference in your immunity. So some of the things that make a difference seem too simple to matter. But what we found is the simplest things that we just evolved to do, that nature intended for us to do, those are the things that heal powerfully. So the food we eat, the relationships we have, our sleep, our movement, our connection to nature, our physical contact with nature, and we are nature, knowing we're nature. Those are the most important things for building your immune system. When we run counter to that, we tear ourselves down and we're more susceptible to get sick, not only from this, but also chronic disease. And so that's why Sky and I have been seeing this as a portal. So just like we've been seeing, I've been seeing a lot on Facebook, all these cool things are happening, like the air in Beijing is clearing up, the canals in Venice are crystal clear. And when I was in Venice, it stunk. It smelled bad. You know? And so now when I saw pictures of the canal that it was like clear and, you know, there were fish and dolphins, like I was just like, literally the earth is healing itself. As we cut back on our activity, the earth is healing. You know, I almost start to look at viruses as like the earth's immune system, you know? And so we can kind of get on board and work with or against nature, the earth, God, whatever your languaging is, you know, this is an opportunity. It's a portal. One of the biggest problems people have with making change is that part of we have a split consciousness. So our higher self gets excited and wants to make change and live this optimal life. But we also have this very primal self that's saying, well, I'm not dead yet, so how I've been doing things must be just fine. I'm just going to keep doing that. We also have self-doubt, self-sabotaging thoughts. We also create identities like I'm a food addict, I'm a sugar addict, like lots of us do it. We create identities around behaviors and we think this is just how I am. And it's fine to love and accept yourself just how you are. I totally support that. And I support being open to new possibilities. So I really think it's important when we have something like this, it's like a pandemic and we're all paying attention to our health all of a sudden. I am just hoping and praying that this is going to be like a wormhole, like a portal into people paying more attention to their health and taking better care of themselves and each other. And I really, if you really look at how the immune system works and the things we need to do to protect ourselves from catching this virus and spreading this virus are the exact same things we need to stop the pandemic of heart disease, to stop the pandemic of cancer, to stop the pandemic of autoimmune disease. And while those don't scare us because they're not contagious, like in terms of like, you know, they don't travel through the air and infect people, but they're contagious through thoughts, habits, and culture. We all support each other in eating things that make us sick. We support each other in behaviors that, you know, not getting enough sleep. We have a culture that says be productive, and we think it's productive to destroy ourselves and not productive to uplift ourselves and cultivate joy. So I really want to take this opportunity of this virus to say, hey, can we love ourselves and each other? Can we live more in alignment with our, you know, evolutionary biology? Can we live a more sustainable life? And can we find a way to balance economy and health and well-being? I think we can. I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. I think we can have an amazing, thriving economy and look out for human welfare. So that's my hope, that we can use this as a positive, but also acknowledge the part about this that's painful and scary and uncomfortable, and really support ourselves through it. And let's see what we have. So anyway, let's see what time it is. I'm going to wrap up pretty soon. I think before I actually take questions, I'm going to just do one more breathing exercise. So Mom, I don't know about you, Diane. I don't, some of you, I don't really know your lung capacity. So if you, like, everyone can just try this. And if it feels like too vigorous of breathing for you, or it's okay to get a little lightheaded, but if you get too lightheaded and you're uncomfortable, you can just stop and go back to breathing the way we were at the beginning, where you just inhale, retain, exhale, pause. You can just breathe like that. This is called breath of fire, and it's a way to induce something called mitochondrial hormesis. And mitochondrial hormesis is just good stress that makes us more resilient. So things like sunshine. Oh, that's another thing, vitamin D, sunshine. You need light. And so you may live somewhere where there's not a lot right now, but even if it's overcast, going outside, you are going to get some sunlight. And that's really, D3 is one of the most important things for your immune system. Get it from the sun. You can also get it from supplements. But anyway, we're going to breathe in a way that induces mitochondrial hormesis. It's a gentle stressor that actually strengthens our mitochondria, and so it can make us more resilient. It also has the added benefit of kind of clearing your mind if it's spinning out. So we're going to be breathing through the nose. I want to make sure that everyone is sitting down and feels stable. Some of you have done this before. Got some yogis in here. And so what it's going to be something called breath of fire. It's a fast breath through your nose. It's pumping. So it's going, and you want your tummy to move. So I'll scoot back. You want your tummy to be like moving in and out, like, so you're going to do that. We're going to do that 36 times. And then at the end of it, you're going to exhale. So here comes the hormesis part. You exhale. So rapid breath. And at the end, you push the breath out all the way, exhale. And you're just going to hold your breath as long as you can. And if you count, it gives your mind something to do. And then when you can't keep it out anymore and you need to inhale, it's okay. Go ahead and inhale. And you have an option to even hold the inhale. Like, I really like that too. Or you cannot. And then you just exhale and sit and breathe normally and wait for everybody else. We're going to do 3 rounds of it. And if everyone can mute their mic. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, here we go. We're going to do this together. If you don't want to do it, you can just watch or just listen. Okay, so I like to put my hands on my thighs, ground myself, feet on the floor, sit up nice and tall. You do get a little, yeah, you'll notice you get a little, some people think of it as like a healthy high, you know, but it's just going to help calm your nervous system. You'll notice after you do it how your brain state shifts. Okay, so here you go. You can close your eyes or open your eyes. I'm going to close my eyes. So breathing through the nose, pumping the belly. Here we go. And 36 pumps, and exhale, hold. Here we go. So option to inhale after you hold the exhale. And then just returning to normal breathing, maybe closing your eyes, seeing how you feel for a moment. I'm going to do 2 more times. There we go. Breath of fire. Just breathing and feeling. I'm going to do one more time. That actually makes me want to cough a little. I don't think I have the coronavirus though. Okay, so one more round and then we're through. So here we go. Breath of fire, 36 breaths. Hold the exhale. And just breathing and feeling, and just open your eyes when you're ready. No rush. So that's something I do. I think it's important to have a routine. So I try to, I don't always do this, but I really try. If I get to bed early enough and off electronics enough early enough at night, I've even like read books on paper. I know it's weird. You have good vision, you can do that. But when I get enough sleep, I can get up early enough. Then I actually go sit outside on the ground. I have like a little mat I sit on so my butt doesn't get wet when it rains. I put my feet on the earth. I sometimes do, if you guys know EFT or thought field therapy tapping, I do the breath of fire, and then I meditate. And then I do a Joe Dispenza kind of meditation visualization practice of reframing limiting or fearful beliefs. He has a book called You're the Placebo and a lot of YouTube online material. Also, Bruce Lipton is a cell biologist who teaches a lot about the mind-body connection and how our mind creates our biology. And so I hope your takeaway is that this is a portal, a new opportunity to heal ourselves. And it's also an opportunity to create a routine that serves us more. And I hope you also see how when we support our immune system and nurture ourselves, it soothes our nervous system and calms our emotions. Conversely, when we soothe our emotions and calm ourselves, then that actually boosts our immunity and makes us physically stronger and puts us in a mindset or a brain state that's going to make better decisions that serve us more. So the two have to go together. And I'm just going to open up. You can, if anyone has a question, let's see, if you have your video off, I can't see you raise your hand. Sky, do you see anything in the chat I need to know about? Oh, Jessica, I saw your question. Could you unmute yourself and actually, I'm not sure what resources you're talking about. Would you mind asking the whole group and clarifying?
Sure. First, also, thank you so much for what you've already shared. And I was just quickly just jotting when you were speaking about the other videos that you found resourceful for yourself. If at any point that feels like you could share,
The Joe Dispenza videos, or something else, another topic.
just what you were just saying. I couldn't hear.
The Joe Dispenza video. There's one in particular I really like. So yeah, if you can send me a text and just remind me, I'll send you some links.
Gladly. Thank you.
Anyone else? Does anyone have any questions, comments, feedback on your breathing experience? And you can go ahead and just unmute yourself, and we'll hope it happens slightly in an orderly way. Anyone?
Whew.
Sita or?
Hi. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, Sita and then Diane.
I just wanted to, I am curious about, like, we've been doing Instacart, getting grocery delivery just because we're just trying to stay home.
Yeah.
My concern is, you mentioned that you can make a hydrogen peroxide spray.
Uh-huh.
Could you elaborate on that? Because I don't even know, you know, it's uncertain or unclear what we could touch or how we can contract it. You know, it's kind of a mystery. So what about fresh veggies and salads? You know, should we still be eating those? Should we be cooking them, juicing them, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I personally use a hydrogen peroxide spray. It's like a high oxygen environment. So anaerobic microbes, things that don't do well in a high oxygen environment, die. One thing I meant to say is a lot of what we're talking about, a lot of advice that's coming out is an extrapolation of what we know about the immune system and viruses in general. There's very little research on COVID-19 right now in terms of like lifestyle implications, but when I have talked to virologists and epidemiologists, it looks like the same things we need to do to bolster our immune system also apply to these viruses. Now, in the realm of herbs, next week we're going to talk about herb supplements and foods. And one thing I want to tell you before you leave is one thing I learned very recently is do not take antiviral herbs if you're not sick. Don't try to treat it before it happens. What can happen is early low-level inoculation can get used to whatever you're taking and then it won't work. So I was kind of erroneously taking some olive leaf and some other things, andrographis. So what I'm hearing from people that are much more credible, I mean, people who actually are taking herbs and they're studying in labs. They're actually studying virus labs and how they're looking at how different herbs work with different viruses. So one of the messages I want to get across, don't treat it when you don't have it, because then it may not work if you do get it.
Can I just insert something for Sita real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I wouldn't worry too much about eating it, because the thing is your stomach acid is an environment that kills any and all viruses. So there's really not a huge concern about eating it. In fact, one of the things that they're recommending is to be constantly drinking water and, you know, gargling and things that can basically, if you're exposed to the virus in the mucous membranes of, say, your throat and your sinuses, and it's starting to work its way down into your lungs, which is what we don't want to happen, getting that into your stomach will actually have your body just kill it, because you have the acid in your stomach. So I think what Traci's saying is, like, you can always cleanse raw food that you're going to be eating with hydrogen peroxide, because it's something that easily washes off, and it's not like a chemical that, you know, it's going to leave a residue. So if that makes you feel better, you can do that on raw food that, you know, if someone's whatever, preparing it or putting, you know, salad together in a cart for you, and, you know, you're afraid that they might have gotten some of their micro droplets on there. You can cleanse in a dilute solution of hydrogen peroxide, but ultimately eating isn't going to be exposing you too much. So,
Thank you.
Yeah. I wouldn't, that's the thing, is like, I feel like it's more important to bolster immunity than to, like, yes, you don't want to be like haphazardly just, you know, reckless with germ sharing, but I also wouldn't really get to the point of obsessing.
Yeah.
What you want to do is build your immunity. If you're building your immunity, then it's not as much of an issue, because your mucosal immunity will support you, kill the virus, and your stomach acid will kill the virus. Diane, you had a question or comment.
You gave a lot of information on breathing through the nose and how the nose affects immunity, and you just gave a great deal of information. Can you do bullet point of some of the main things you said that would affect our behavior. And you may have to think about that and post it later.
Okay. So are you saying like when we breathe through the nose, the benefits of it, or are you saying things we can do to
how the body works when you're breathing through your nose, and the self-immunity that your body has to the microbes, all of that was a great deal of important information.
Okay, so your body has something called immunoglobulins, and
yes,
there's and G, W, and which one am I missing? Anyway, and so they patrol different mucosal membranes and pathways. So we have there's research showing that we have these chemicals in our sinus passages, and they kill viruses, including influenza and coronavirus strains. So we want to make sure we breathe through our nose as much as possible so that we can be filtering the air, and we want to support stomach acid so that we're not susceptible. So basically you want to kind of man the holes because those are your castle walls. Did that help a little bit, Diane?
That did. It just, and that was part of what I was interested in, but your entire presentation was chock full of things that were helpful, and just kind of a wrap up.
Like a little document that's the highlights, the takeaway points.
Yes.
Something in writing.
Yeah.
Idea. Anyone else interested in that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, any other
Can I also just add real quick something about the sinuses? Just think of it as like this pre-filter. Like she was talking about that, but like think of it as a pre-filter, because again, we don't want this virus or any kind of respiratory virus in our lungs. That's where the mucus in our lungs will start, and that's what we want to avoid. So if you can start, the filtering process here, you may not even get infected. But if you do, you would much rather have the infection start here, because then it's going to have your whole immune system can prevent it from going down and back and into your lungs. I mean, we've all experienced this, right? When you've had a cold and you get that post-nasal drip because it started in your sinuses, and then all of a sudden, like your throat starts to hurt and it starts to get inflamed, and then all of a sudden you can feel it trying to go into your lungs. We're trying to prevent that from happening as much as possible. So,
and that brings up another point that I thought of, is you want to protect your membranes by staying out of smoke.
mm-hmm.
So you might not want to grill where there's a lot of smoke. You want to avoid really dryness, so that your membranes remain unpunctured, unirritated, unscratched, and vulnerable. So are there any healthy ways to keep your membranes healthy and moistened?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be avoiding things that cause inflammation of pathways. So you're right, like anything environmental, like perfumes, any kind of toxic chemicals you might breathe, like the most inflammatory and toxic foods, or anything with additives, preservatives, gluten, cow dairy, processed sugars, all those things cause inflammation of the sinus passages and of the gut and of the digestive tract. Some people, anything with mold toxins like peanuts, some people are sensitive to aflatoxins, mold, any kind of mold in your environment, that's a whole other topic. So one thing I was gonna mention is that Sky and I decided we normally have like 20-minute appointments set aside for new clients. And so we're gonna allow people who have questions that might be more involved to go ahead. When we send the replay, probably later in the day, tomorrow or Monday, we'll send Calendly links and you guys can sign up. And if you have more questions, you can take one of those appointments to ask questions. If you're someone we text with regularly and you have a lot of access to us, you can text us that you want to find time to talk. If you don't know us very well and have a lot of access to us, just follow those links and set up a 20-minute appointment and we can discuss some of that stuff. And we also do offer one-on-one coaching, and we're putting together some smaller groups. We were originally going to do that anyway to make things more affordable, but now more than ever, people are concerned about money. So we're starting some small groups that we're going to help people work through some of their specific health issues together. I got some good questions about, yes, food grade hydrogen peroxide for your food. Thank you, Annie, for bringing that up. I love the brand Essential Oxygen. My friend owns the company, but I also love the company. I love them both. Crystal, you were asking what's the ratio of hydrogen peroxide to water. If you get food grade hydrogen peroxide, you can get it in a spray or put it in a spray bottle. It's 3%. You don't need to dilute it with any water for just spraying produce. You can spray it, let it sit, and then rinse. But if you're trying to soak in peroxide, like grains or something like that, you can just do a few squirts in the water. But yeah, but like stress too much about germs in like fresh produce, especially food you're going to cook. And as long as you put your stomach acid. Let's see. Yeah, that was a good question. Yes. Oh yeah, and Brenda also said the thing about food grade hydrogen peroxide. Okay. Any other questions before we wrap?
Yes. Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So I'm thinking about, the sinuses. We love to use the neti pot. And I know, it's a practice for some, especially in the Ayurvedic tradition, to neti pot daily. Would that be compromising? Would that be a useful thing to practice right now? Or, should we do it first thing in the morning? We do it maybe if we ran to the store and come back, maybe that would be the best time to.
I wouldn't overthink when you do it, but yeah, I think a neti pot habit is good. Make sure you put a balance of salt and baking soda. There are a lot of ratios on the web. You can just Google it so that it doesn't burn. If you do a neti pot and it burns, that means your baking soda to salt ratio is off.
Okay. I have the little pouches.
Yeah, you can also buy.
Okay.
Yeah. Another thing that I use, Rachel, are the those little Arm & Hammer, they're like little metal canister sprays. Have you seen those? They're like basically a drug-free nasal spray. It's made by Arm & Hammer. So I use that as kind of my quick wash, so to speak. Like I like to use the neti to get really deep in my sinuses. And, at this time of year, like you're saying, if you go to the store or something, you can do that deeper neti, but like it's a lot to do like a full neti, a few times a day. So I like to use the Arm & Hammer as my keep my my membranes moist and keep washing out any possible things that I've gotten in there. So that's like the quick and easy way.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And then Jennifer asked, if you don't have access to grass-fed high-quality animal protein, is it best to stick strictly to plant protein? That's a little bit of a tricky question. I would get the cleanest meat you can if you do eat meat, and just try to get at least one most humane you can, even wild game. Just get the best you can. Some people do feel good on plant-based diets or vegetarian diets. A lot of people don't. It's kind of a new thing in human evolution. Humans historically have never been really vegan, so it's kind of if you look at the timeline of human existence, it's so new. So not everyone's body adapts well to it. Some people feel they do, some people don't. Some people do well for a while. Some people, it's just, we're all different. So listen to your body and, just do the best you can with animal protein quality. There are also services you can order online and have it delivered if you can afford it. Crystal, did you have a question?
Oh, I was wondering about, with everything going on lockdown here in Portland, I'm trying to stock up. And so I bought all these eggs. But I just learned about something called glassing eggs, and if you haven't looked about it, Jennifer's question reminded me of it. But it actually can preserve eggs in it's a
lime,
hydrated lime, which is made from oyster shells, bones that have been put in a kiln, and so it actually keeps it for 8 months to 2 years. And so I'm just putting that out there just because of what it is right now. But the best thing is using like fresh eggs, like duck eggs or farm fresh eggs.
Yeah, they can't be washed, right?
Right, not washed.
Wash and remove a mucosal membrane that actually stops. It's the same thing as like in our sinuses. There's a mucosa around eggs when they're laid that protects them from microbes. So they look dirty, but they're actually biologically cleaner than the ones that have been washed and sterilized.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to address Jennifer's question about being 8 months pregnant, if there's any extra precautions. I would definitely say, as people are wanting to learn more about like herbs and different antiviral and immune boosting herbs and things like that, just keep in mind that there's like with any herb or any form of chemical based therapy, like there's always a little bit of a double-edged sword. So I would be hesitant to just be like, trying a whole bunch of new herbs or doing things that you're not already used to, just because of the pregnancy can make you a little extra sensitive. That's just something I would say.
And again, don't try to treat something you don't have. Wait, and if then we'll pull out the big guns. But let's wait and just try to stay healthy for as long as humanly possible and just prevent. Yeah, anything else? Is anyone struggling with like the emotions and stress around this that wants to share or give advice or ask for advice or support? Is everyone feeling pretty emotionally supported right now?
I've definitely been feeling it. I would say, so last week my hours were reduced, and that brought up definitely a lot of fear facts, like just data and all that, you know, like just doing the math in my head. And the thing is there's this moment where it was Monday where I just felt really gripped with fear, like, what am I going to do? And, you know, I woke up the next morning and I honestly, like, I looked in the mirror and I just said, I'm going to shine today. And I just like went out and I just realized that whenever I was feeling fear, the more I like just kept opening my heart and like pushing that constriction out, that it was better. And that's something I'm doing. Like, I realized, like, whether it's an expression of love, whether it's sitting down and writing a letter or calling a friend and telling someone you love them, it always seems to transmute like whatever's going on in my chest when I feel anxiety.
Thank you. Oxytocin, vasopressin, all those pair bonding hormones, love hormones. Whenever we can create through meditation or authentic human connection and love and appreciation and gratitude. I don't mean to sound like everyone's talking about gratitude, but there's a lot of science on it and it's a reality. The more grateful we are, the more loving we are, the more appreciative we are, the more we open our hearts, the more we release chemicals that actually immunity and actually allow us to make changes in our lives that we might otherwise resist. Thank you, Crystal.
Mm-hmm, thank you.
All right, so we're appreciation in the chat, Crystal. Yeah. Okay.
I also want to talk about something that might seem a little weird, but there's been these different times of day, and it's like these times of days where, and it's different than the anxiety. It like feels like a heaviness, and I get like lightheaded, and it feels much more energetic almost. And like in those moments I have to breathe, but I'm wondering, I was with a friend when I started feeling it, and she mentioned that she was feeling nauseous, but it wasn't nausea, it was like something else. And I don't know if that's like the collective fear of what's going on, and we're just like, those of us who are sensitive are feeling it, or like, have you guys had any experience about that?
Raise your hand if you like you feel like you can just feel the fear happening.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, and it's a mix of our own, and I've experienced when even I'm not worried about it at all, but I'm feeling everyone else's. And there's something we do, I think, you know, I know we live in a universe, everything is literally made of energy. Like, that's just physics. Not, sounds very new age, but it's just a reality. And but we also do something called neuronal mirroring, which is when someone, and it's actually a survival mechanism, because if you look on like nature shows and there's like a herd of antelope and one sees a predator and runs, all the other ones run too, or one's hurt and they come to, so it's like we are wired to cue off each other. So if we're surrounded by distress, then we're going to feel distress. And especially if you're empathic or super compassionate or sensitive person, you're going to feel it more. And it's not good or bad to feel it more or less. It's just we're all a little different in our sensitivity. And you know, that's why I think things like meditation, reaching out to friends, movement, going outside, getting some sunlight, touching the ground, all those things are really important to ground and soothe ourselves. Thank you, Crystal. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
So one last question, or let's take two more and then we'll wrap it up. Oh, Harish says journaling has helped him a lot. Thank you for that suggestion. Or was that Soothe? Whoever it was, thanks.
I just want to invite you all to my talk tomorrow. Traci and I are like, in many ways, like we have like a whole mind meld thing, but we also have our own unique little just ways of sharing it. So I definitely will be sharing things that are similar, but might give you new insights as well. So, and they'll both be available online. So whether you can make it or not, like I encourage you to watch it and share it. So
yeah. I was actually going to end with an invitation to join Sky tomorrow, because he's brilliant. He's so brilliant, and I love hearing him share. Like the way he shares about biology and nature and health, it's like you're listening to like a magical fairy tale that like he has such a beautiful way of expressing and nurturing.
And I just want to also just encourage you, like there's just so many great things you can do for yourself. So don't feel like you have to get it right or do it all or any of that. Just like Traci was saying, this isn't about being perfect. This is just about like, let's make our priority taking good care of ourselves right now, and like being excited to learn new ways to do that. And we all have this pause, like we can't go do our normal daily tasks. So we might as well put our energy towards that, because it's what's going to keep us going.
Yeah, thanks, Annie and Deborah.
How can I invite somebody else? So I want to invite a couple of people that are not on Instagram.
You can just give them the link to this Zoom call, or if you think they want to be getting updates about it, you can give them the link to that like landing page that they can put their email in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I didn't until we started doing this. So anyway, you can basically forward the email that's like talking about this series, and they can sign up to get email notifications. But you can also, when you get the you guys are welcome to share the replays with your friends. Like, that's totally fine.
Oh, perfect.
You may want to warn people about spam folders too.
Yeah, that's another.
Oh yeah.
I manually checked on a bunch of you to make sure you got this. If I knew you and had your contacts, I reached out, because so many people were getting everything in spam. We'll be again sending those Calendly links. So if things come up, also here's another thing, that once we've had this discussion, sometimes things percolate, and then you think of things later. So yeah, reach out after this, and we're going to meet again next week. Yes, Gaia.
Yep. And
we'll be sending out an email about that too. And okay, well, let's go ahead. And sorry, Heidi, we couldn't get your mic off, but feel free to reach, outside of this format. All right, guys, thank you for joining us today. I love you so much. No, or even can't see.
Thank you.
Interact with you more.
Love
you too.
Love you all.
Bye.
Be well.
Bye.
Bye.